Howdy folks, it's Angel the Hunting Gear Guy, and this is the BCL Bison. It's a bolt-action rifle, 12-inch barrel on this one, with that Trident flash hider on there. And it takes STANAG mags and its own proprietary magazine. So you can use the proprietary mags, or you can use the limited to 5-round mags, or you can use the LAR magazine mags inside this rifle. So all my mags are empty, and my chamber's empty as well, so we're good to take a closer look at this thing. Just starting at the rear, this is actually not the stock that it came with. It just comes with a standard M4 style stock. For your pistol grip, you can replace them. You can't use a beaver tail style one. There's just not quite enough room there. So standard style pistol grip. Then we have, this is a 60-degree bolt, and we remove it by pressing that button over there. So, and then there's our 3-lug bolt, which gives us that 60-degree lift. Pretty heavy style unibody bolt. This kind of reminds me of the Ruger American bolt a little bit. We've got a magazine release on the side here. Pretty ergonomic. Pretty much exactly where you'd want it. So very easy to grab that. Very easy to pop these magazines in as well. And it doesn't hold open the bolt, does it? So some of the magazines it will hold open. With this short mag pull one, no, I can still move it forward. It's just a little bit more forceful. So it does catch a little bit on the follower there. With some other magazines, you can just push it forward with the magazine in. One thing that's a bit interesting, this safety isn't really marked at all. So back is safe, forward is fire. So a little bit interesting there. Should probably have like a red dot or something like that that you cover when it's in safe mode. Let's see what the trigger pull's like. I felt it was quite good, so here, let me just pull it up for you guys. 3 pounds 11 ounces. Try one more here. That's pretty good. I don't mind that. 3 pounds 13 ounces, so pretty consistent. And just for the travel, let's just take a look there. Very nice. Really nice trigger pull on this thing. But anytime you use like too nice of a trigger pull, sometimes you give up a little bit on reliability. And on this one, what we found is sometimes, especially if you had like a hard primer in there, you'd pull the trigger, you'd hear the click, but no bang. The round wouldn't go off because the hammer didn't hit it hard enough. So you'd have to bring the bolt back up, fire it again, and sometimes it just wouldn't fire some of them. So I'm not sure what's going on with those ones, but they just wouldn't fire. On the front here, we have this really nice flat bottom forend. There is a top for it, but this scope was just a little bit too tight, so we opted to pull the top off, which is fairly easy to do. I like the forend. It's just the right length, especially for this 12-inch rifle here. You're not going to C-clamp it or anything like that, but it gives you a little bit of room for mounting a bipod or putting a little bit of Picatinny rail up for the bipod like there is on this rifle. And then right at the front, we have that Trident. This thing really rings when you fire, and you'll hear it when we hit the range. Speaking of which, why don't we go there now? Hit. Dead center. Yeah, your group's quite high. One thing to mention, this is not the brake that it came with. It came with a gill style muzzle brake. So what did we learn at the range? Well, a couple of things. Again, like I mentioned there, the hammer doesn't quite have enough power to strike off some of those harder primers, so that's something to consider. We did have a couple of fail to ejects. If you don't pull it back hard and fast, sometimes the round like flips around in there and it doesn't really pop out of the action very well. So that's one thing we noticed. I was going to check what what twist rate's on this barrel. One thing we noticed firing it is that it gave pretty good accuracy with like 65 and 70 grain bullets, like heavier bullets, right? So I was thinking, oh, maybe it's like a 1 in 7 twist or something like that, but it's not marked. The barrel's not marked as far as I can see for caliber or length or twist or anything. The rifle's not marked either. It's just plain with, it says made in Canada. It says Black Creek on there. MRX Bison. Yeah, that's it. And a serial number, of course, but no safety markings, none of the other stuff, which is kind of odd because it, like, if I knew the twist rate, if it was a 1 in 7, oh, that would explain why it likes that heavier stuff. But yeah, interesting. Anyways, so should you buy a BCL MRX Bison? Well, there's a couple of interesting things that this thing has. One is like the mag changes are excellent. So you can pop the mag in. It's got a bit of a beveled mag well in there, which you don't usually find on a bolt action rifle. So it is easy to get those magazines in there. It is a quick, and like the bolt is quite slick on it. So it does have like a nice, and I've locked the stupid thing up, there it goes. It does have a nice bolt most of the time. I think it's this bolt hold is just not, it's just sticking. Okay, well now it's not sticking. Oh, there it goes. Wow, so weird. So weird. I don't know what's going on in that mechanism, but it's just not quite right. And it doesn't have a fixed ejector. It's got a push button ejector, so I'm not sure why. Although, why is it so low? Now the bolts on these things look quite like the Ruger American. I mentioned that before, but very similar there. But yeah, it's odd that we're running across those ejection problems, because with this style bolt, with that, get in there, with that push button ejector, it should be able to eject at any point, and you shouldn't have to rip it back. It should just flick it out when it goes. But sometimes if you don't like rack it back really fast, it sometimes flipped the case around and just left it in there, and then you'd have to like shake the case out. In terms of accuracy, it was okay. Like a lot of people have been reporting in 1.5 inches and found the same with it. That 1.5 inches was with the heavier bullets that it liked. So it liked the 65 and the 70 grainers. So if you can use a heavier bullet, you might find that your rifle is more accurate. And with the lighter rounds, it was pretty all over the place. Just shooting it, I saw sometimes I'd press the trigger off, good trigger press, and it would go low and left, and sometimes I'd fire it again, and it would be 2 inches off with some of the lighter weight bullets. So accuracy has definitely helped with a heavier bullet in my experience. Who's going to buy one of these things? Well, it is an interesting lightweight bolt action rifle. If you're believing that the Liberals are going to ban semi-automatics, you might have to go with something like this. And one thing that makes it interesting is it does take these proprietary bolt action only 20 round magazines that you can run in these things very well. So that is something that's a plus for these rifles. These magazines also fit a little bit more snugly. I found with some of the polymer ones that there is a bit of wiggle room in there. And of course, like the Magpul ones are going to give generally like your tightest fit to these things. And I did get a couple of times with, which magazine? Can't remember which magazine it was with, but a couple times I had the magazine in, ran the bolt, pulled it up on target, and click, because it didn't feed around, because the magazine was tilted one way or the other. So that's another thing to consider. That happens with a lot of rifles that use AR magwells, though, because there is so much variation in AR mag builds, how tight they are, where they put their supports, that kind of thing. So that's something that can happen. So anyways, that's the BCL Bison. Thanks for watching.